Live, so it says. Got my microphone. I'm getting similar questions posed, and whenever that starts to happen, I like to put out a video because clearly a lot of people are having the same question. I got one in both email and on the Facebook group. If you're interested in radiologic technology, I encourage you to join our Facebook group. It is called the Radiologic Technologist Group. And we're going to talk about Nikki here, who left a question because it is similar to Lindsay, who sent an email. Lindsay basically said, I'm in ultrasound school. I'm not sure I made the right decision because I'm a high energy person. And maybe I should have gone to Xray school because they get up and move around a lot more and have a lot more things to do, running around the hospital, traumas in the ER, that kind of thing. And she's finding out that ultrasound can be a little more sedentary. And Nikki is saying that she thought about being a vet tech or was on her way to be a vet tech. No, I'm sorry. That's a different one. Nikki has a BS degree in management and is thinking about going back to school and is trying to decide which modality to go into, and is worried about sonography limiting her ability to make money due to there not being as many modalities to do straight out of school, as well as limit my exposure to knowledge due to different ways anatomies are scanned. Basically, let's get some information out there about ultrasound. So you can, and I'm just going to pull up some emails here that I wrote. Ultrasound, let's see, Xray school is 2 years, and I've got videos already talking about this, but Xray school is 2 years, ultrasound school is 2 years. You do not have to do both. You do not, when I went to school, you had to be an Xray tech or some type of ancillary healthcare worker to get into the ultrasound program. So you could have been an Xray tech, a respiratory therapist, a nurse, physical therapist, something with a 2-year degree in order to apply to the ultrasound school. And it was the same way for the nuclear medicine program. Nowadays, I hear that they've changed that, and you may not have to do both. So I would definitely look into that. If you're more interested in nuke med or ultrasound, look and see if you can get into that program without having to go through the radiology program. Now, when Lindsay was concerned about being bored in ultrasound, here are 8 things that I pointed out, and this could also apply to Nikki because these are 8 things that I really liked, and it was all that I could think of at the time that I wrote this. There's more, but here's 8 things that I liked about ultrasound, and I don't really get into ultrasound a lot on my blog or YouTube channel because my whole point in starting both was to help students of Xray and people that were looking into going into Xray. Now, since there's a good amount of people that look at other modalities as well, I answer a lot of those questions too. But this particular video is going to be more about ultrasound. I went to ultrasound school at Gateway Community College in Phoenix, Arizona. And so when people are concerned about ultrasound maybe being a little slower or more intense, or maybe they're starting to question whether or not that's the modality for them, here's what I said to Lindsay. I said, if you want fast pace, I recommend you work in an OB office. You may or may not have preconceived feelings about OB, but I can tell you that I loved it, and here's why. For one, you might be scanning for a life and death situation, or what they call a fetal demise. It's up to you to show there is no problem when the mother thinks that there is. Many outside healthcare workers who try to find fetal heart tones with a handheld ultrasound machine will not be able to locate it. Even ER docs will try with their little sonocytes or a handheld unit, and they can't find the fetal heart tone, and they'll send them off to ultrasound, which is where they should have sent them to begin with. But you get nurses and doctors trying to find fetal heart tones, and they can't find it because that kid's moving around nonstop. So it's easier for an experienced sonographer to find, and turning on the sound of that heart beating is really cool and reassuring to the mother. So it's a good feeling for both sides there. Two, unlike a gallbladder or a uterus, a fetus is constantly moving, usually. Talk about trying to image a moving target. A full OB scan includes up to about 50 plus different images. So trying to nail all those while the kid's breakdancing in the womb is really tough sometimes. It can be really challenging, and it keeps you on your toes. You have to be ready to snap a picture when you see something really well that you weren't really looking for. But you basically just have to forget about protocols at some point or sometimes, because if you try to go head to toe on an OB scan and you skip past all the beautiful images you could have captured just to try and stay in order, you're going to spend a lot more time completing that exam than if you just take the pictures that you see when you see them. And usually there's something on the screen for you as a sonographer that you can keep track of what images you've taken. Otherwise, you just keep track in your head. Number three, nobody knows what you're looking at but you and the radiologist. During an X-ray, it can be pretty obvious to a patient when a bone is broken if they can see the screen. Or, they can tell, oh, that's the hand or that's the foot. In an ultrasound, nobody knows what you're looking at except you and the radiologist. So it's kind of cool. Number four, and this will sound a little awkward, but you get a lot more respect as a sonographer than you do as an X-ray tech. And I've been both, so I'm talking from experience here. And I think part of it is because if a radiographer captures a chest X-ray and every aspect is on there that should be on the film, if you're doing a chest X-ray and you've got from the apices to the costophrenic angles and you've got everything on there, you still don't have to know if there's pathology there. In fact, radiographers aren't really taught a lot of pathology. What we're taught is positioning and technique and how to capture the best image possible. In sonography, we are taught normal and abnormal pathology, and we are taught to identify abnormal pathology. And we have a worksheet that we fill out with every single exam where we write down all of the pathology that we see. So I'm losing my place here. So in sonography, the rads really expect you to tell them what you see. And I think that's where a lot of that respect comes from, because the doctors, the radiologists are counting on you to tell them what's there. That if you don't capture pathology on an image as a sonographer, the radiologist won't know it's there. Whereas you turn in a chest X-ray, and whether the tech knows what's on there or not, the rad's going to see it. At least I hope they see it. Number five, when you get really good at OBs, you can knock one out in about 20 minutes or so, depending on what all you have to image. If there's no problems, if the baby's cooperative, that kind of thing. That can mean about 3 scans an hour, which over an 8-hour period can mean 24-hour patients in a shift. Now, that's going to wear you out pretty quick, but that's pretty high paced. And remember, we're talking about what part of ultrasound can be high paced and keep you busy for those that like to stay that way, for those that are hyperactive, those that can't stand sitting still and doing one thing. So a busy OB office is going to be just nonstop, and it will keep you busy. Number 6, I called it the fidget scale. On the fidget scale, scanning with the right hand while tapping and pushing buttons with the left hand can be quite the orchestra of movement. Add to that applying gel frequently, moving the patient, adjusting the gurney for a better image, or moving the patient around, and on and on. There's a ton of little things that your hands can be doing during the scan. Number 7, if you're doing exams in your room, one of the things I liked about ultrasound is you can control your environment. You can add your kind of music. You can play soft jazz. You can play talk radio. You can play whatever you like to listen to as long as it doesn't upset the patient, as long as there's no hospital policy against it. Usually it's easy listening or slow jazz or classical, Beethoven, something, whatever your bag is. And you can even have a little mood lighting in there if you want. You can have a little incense, or not incense, but essential oils. I worked at a hospital in Flagstaff where we did a little study, and we put, I can't remember if it was lavender or what the essential oil was, but we put it in some of the patient areas and surveyed the patients, and they actually felt better. And so we were trying to adopt out throughout the hospital. But in ultrasound, you kind of control your environment. So you can have the lighting the way you like it, maybe some mood lighting in the back, a lava lamp or some nice tea lights or something. You can get some lavender or vanilla essential oil going. And again, with the fragrances, you have to be careful. Some hospitals say no fragrances because patients could be allergic. But you can do all these things to kind of make your environment more of what you want to work in all day, as opposed to, an Xray, usually you just grab whatever room's available and all the techs use all the rooms. Now, some ultrasound departments may be like that and you just take whatever room's available. But I've been in a lot of places where you can typically kind of call your own room. I get that one, you get that one, and that's the procedure room, So you can add pictures of your friends and family, maybe your favorite motivational quote, and a fan. If you get hot, if you're that type of person, you can have a nice fan blowing just on you to keep you nice and cool. So there's a big difference there between ultrasound and X-ray. And then last, I call out that if you don't like taking call, an outpatient OB clinic typically doesn't do nights and weekends and therefore no call. They'll typically say, if you have a problem as a patient, you go to the ER. So if you're the type of tech that doesn't want to mess around with call, an outpatient OB clinic might be the choice for you. So to kind of address the difference between X-ray and ultrasound, there are, Nikki was saying maybe there's not so much room for career advancement. Don't forget that ultrasound has its own submodalities. You can be a general ultrasound tech and work in a hospital and do thyroids and testicular exams, transvaginals, abdomens, basic body parts, and you may or may not do vascular as well, carotids, upper extremity, lower extremity. Not all general ultrasound techs have to do vascular because some hospitals have a separate vascular lab where they work with the cardiologists or the vascular surgeons, and they want to do and be in control of their own vascular techs. So some general ultrasound departments, the general sonographers also know vascular. Some don't and let the vascular lab do it. Then there's echosonography, which is a whole nother separate type of ultrasound, similar probe. But if you think about when you're doing general ultrasound, like an abdominal ultrasound, you're imaging the spleen and the gallbladder and the liver, all the lobes of the liver, and all these different parts, pancreas. An echo is only the heart. It's one muscle that you're imaging, but you're taking about 50 images of that one muscle from all these different angles. You go up, I forget what it's called. There's the substernal and there's costophrenic. There's different angles that you look at the heart from and take your images. And there's Doppler, color flow, all these different things that you do to the images. But that echosonography is its own job. Would a hospital love to own a technologist that can do echo and general? Heck yeah, because they'll make you try to do more work for the same amount of money. But usually echo techs also work with the cardiology department. And again, echo techs can do vascular, so they can be an echovascular tech or just echo only. Vascular can be vascular only. I worked at a hospital where the vascular techs couldn't come to my general ultrasound department because they couldn't do a thyroid. We had an OB office upstairs in the hospital. None of those OB techs could come down and help out because they couldn't do a thyroid. they'd been in the OB department for so long that they felt they were too rusty. Now, remember, in ultrasound school, you're taught how to do all that. You're taught how to do all general sonography and usually vascular too. Some didn't. When I went to school 15 years ago, vascular was not included, but I had to learn it on the job. So you can get subspecialized in ultrasound. You can go general, vascular, echo, and if you really want to sub-niche and really want to make some good money, I'm talking $70 an hour. You can specialize, you can go into echo, and then you learn pediatric echo. So you've got a pediatric echo sonographer. That's a tech that only does hearts of pediatric patients. And that is a very subspecialized niche, very, what do they say, worth your weight in gold, because there's not very many. It's really hard to do. And if you ever find a way to work your way down that channel, that is highly lucrative. And we're not even talking about call yet. We're just talking about getting an 8 to 5 job and making decent money. So, you know, if you're getting into this because you want to make as much money as possible and you're okay taking call, then you realize call is time and a half times 2 hours for every callback you're doing. And, you know, there's a little more to it, but if it takes you an hour to do an echo and you're at $60 an hour, I mean, I know a guy making $50 an hour 15 years ago doing echo. So if you're making $50 an hour at time and a half, that's $75 an hour times 2 hours. So that's $150 to come in and do one exam on the heart that takes you 30, 40, maybe 50 minutes. And then you punch out, go home, and wait for your next call. Come back in, $150, 30 minutes exam. So I'm pretty pro ultrasound, if you can't tell, because it's exciting and there's a lot of different, just like radiology itself has MRI and TT and nuke med and PET and mammo and DEXA and IR and all these things. Ultrasound's got quite a few of its own doors as well. So if you're interested in radiology and you're not quite sure what you want to do, you really should try to shadow in as many modalities as you can, because they are, for the most part, completely different. Ultrasound is completely different than mammography, which is completely different than PET scanning, which is completely different. I mean, there's just so many different things about them. So I just wanted to try and put this out there for Lindsay and Nikki, who are kind of questioning as a newbie to the career. I've recently been told these things, and Nikki starts to get into the whole bachelor thing. Bachelor won't do anything for you except maybe get you into administration down the road. It's not going to get you paid any higher in any of these modalities. If you with your bachelor's is trying to get a job as an ultrasound tech and somebody with an associate's is trying to get a job as an ultrasound tech, you're not going to get any more money for that bachelor's. It's just, hospitals just don't care, because you don't need a bachelor's to work in that field. Bachelor's comes when you want to move up the ladder. That's what got me into my first management gig. I was a tech who had a bachelor's degree, and everybody that kept applying either had a bachelor's and wasn't a tech, or was a tech with no bachelor's, and I was the first person that had both. So that's how I got my first job in management over a radiology department. So there's a million things we can talk about. I just thought it'd been probably a couple of weeks since I put a video out, so I just wanted to go over a couple of these real quick and let you know that ultrasound's an exciting gig. And I think I've got a couple videos on this channel about ultrasound. Just use that as your search term. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I also answer emails pretty much every day. And I recommend you join our group on Facebook. It's called the Radiologic Technologist Group. You have to, sign up and answer a couple questions. But other than that, super easy. So hope that helps some of you. Thanks for watching.